Hi, I'm Stephen Hillian, and I'd like to introduce you to Alpine Data Labs. We make analytics solutions that dramatically reduce the time and the friction involved in getting production-ready insights and models out of your data. Our customers have shown that using analytics to solve real-world problems can be done much more rapidly than they expected with the people they already have. For example, working with only a small team at Zions Bank, we developed sophisticated models for product recommendations and risk of loan default, representing an enormous reduction in time and effort and a significant impact on revenue. With Alpine, Zions could use its existing databases as an analytics platform, allowing them to react more quickly to new government regulations or changing customer profiles. The traditional approach to analytics requires a separate analytics infrastructure and a long sequence of cumbersome data movement and complex manual model deployment. Instead, Alpine performs the entire analytics workflow directly in the database, everything from ETL and data exploration all the way through to model building and scoring. This substantially reduces the time to insights and leverages the power of your existing data platforms. There are several advantages in this approach. All that cumbersome data movement, gone. Being forced to work with samples when you want to analyze rare events or small populations, or maybe your samples themselves are pretty big. With Alpine, you can build models on massive data sets in minutes. And instead of isolated analytic sandboxes proliferating throughout the organization, separated from the sources of data, you can now have business and research work together on a common platform, the data itself. And long-running projects which encourage one-shot modeling approaches instead of iterative design can be replaced by a more agile approach to doing analytics. Deployment, often a painful and manual process, is now almost trivial because the models are developed and run in the same environment. As an alternative to separate analytics infrastructures, which are often costly and arcane, Alpine is a much more lightweight approach, using the very latest advances in parallel computing. And our customers have shown how much this simplifies the development of predictive analytics. Harvest Digital, provider of data-driven marketing solutions, has seen the times it takes to produce customer segmentation models shrink from months down to just a few hours. Alpine provides the full spectrum of analytics capabilities, not just predictive modeling, regressions, time series, unsupervised techniques like clustering, but also everything that happens before and after, including extensive data transformation and exploration capabilities, and then the tools to evaluate, share, and deploy your models. Let me show you how it's done. This is Alpine Illuminator, where users such as business analysts and data scientists can share and execute analytics workflows, as well as schedule them to run regularly and view past results. From within Alpine Illuminator, I can see a list of my favorite workflows, many of which I brought in from the public repository. Here's a list of models from the marketing group, for example. I've opened up one analytics workflow that predicts propensity to buy. We've used account and demographic data, as well as past purchase behavior, to predict how likely a customer is to buy new DVDs. We've also taken into account which online ads they've seen, so we can get a sense of which campaign is working. You can easily see the steps of the workflow. We're using data taken directly from tables in the database, which is then joined, cleaned up, and transformed. Once we have a set of interesting variables, we can easily create samples for modeling, and in the same workflow, we can build, evaluate, and even score our models. At any step in the flow, the analyst can view intermediate results, or even change the parameters of the operations. For example, changing the size of the sample used for modeling. Everything runs in the database, so there are no files to manage, iterating is easier, and scalability isn't an issue. I can easily schedule this workflow to run later. I can also run it now, directly from the web interface, or I can view past results. Here's one that I ran a little earlier today. You can see the results of the flow, some simple graphs of age distribution, the output of scoring the model against our customers, and indicators of model quality. It's easy for the entire analytics team to share workflows and results. But how is the workflow created in the first place? Let me show you our flagship product, Alpine Miner. Alpine Miner is the graphical designer for building analytics workflows in your database. You see here a list of workflows, including the one that we just ran from Alpine Illuminator, a selection of data transformations, modeling functions, and other analytics operators, and a simple browser for locating the data that you want to work with. Let me show you how to build a simple but complete analytics workflow from scratch. I'm going to build a churn model, a fairly general example, but closely based on a project that we executed for a phone company here in the US. We start with a table of customer accounts. There's a limited set of fields to work with, just the type of the account, whether it's active or closed, and a credit score, and a zip code. I'd like to add recent account statements, so let me include that table from the database. And I've also got a table of incomes by zip code, so I can make a guess at the customer's income level. I'm not actually moving the data around, just selecting which tables I want to use. All the processing is done where the data lives. Now let me join the income data to the account data. This is as easy as specifying which tables that I want to join, selecting the column with which we want to match the records, in this case that's zip code, and then just selecting the fields that I want to include in the result. Now I'm ready to add in the account statement data. And for this, I want to build an aggregate of the last 12 months of data. In order to do that, I need to specify that I'm aggregating by the account, and then the fields that I want to aggregate. In this case, I'm going to take the average balance, and I'm also going to take the maximum balance so that I can look for spikes in activity that might drive customer churn. Now I can join all the data together, ready for modeling. I'll join the account and income information together with the balance summaries from the account statements. I join by matching records based on their account ID, and I'll include all of the relevant fields. I'm now ready to begin modeling. I'm going to use decision trees because they give me an easy and intuitive way to understand which variables are driving customer attrition. I let the decision tree know what data set it's going to be operating on. I select the variable that it's going to predict, in this case the status of the account, and then I select the variables that I think are likely to predict churn, namely account type, balance, credit, and income information. And now I'm ready to start the workflow. The Alpine engine starts executing the steps, first preparing the data set and then building the model. Each operation is executed entirely in the database without the need to move any data at all. And at each stage, the application reports back on the intermediate results so that I can review them later. And now let's take a look at the results, and we can review the decision tree and get a quick sense of what my data is telling me. One immediate conclusion is that for those on either end of the income spectrum, the churn rates are higher. Also here, for those in the lower income bracket, if there's a spike in the monthly balance, then this leads to churn in those customers with the more standard types of accounts. Now this is obviously a very simple model, but I think it illustrates how the entire analytics workflow from end to end can be built with a single application, starting at the source of the data and moving all the way to model building and then computing customer scores. And that was an example of just one of many applications. Here's a few that our customers have developed: product recommendation engines, fraud detection, campaign optimization, and so on. If you're interested in an analytics solution that can support your own agile enterprise, give us a call or just get started today with our free trial version available at alpinedatalabs.com. Thanks.